Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Chip Over the Top Rugby podcast. My name is Ryan, the host of this bad boy podcast. If you are new here, welcome. And if you've been here before and you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. If you do want to be a returning subscriber, all you have to do is hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to get notified whenever I upload a video, hit that bell button too. Now, before we get into it, just want to say the Ospreys obviously are taking on Perpignan right now this evening, and then Cardiff take on the Quins tomorrow, as you are probably watching this video. I'm not entirely sure what the results will be, but it would probably be one last final tester for Warren Gatland as he is announcing the Six Nations squad next week on the 16th to be precise. Now, I have already discussed my 2024 Six Nations squad selection video up here for you on that one. If you want to go check it out, please do so. But I want to discuss something briefly. This is probably going to be one of the shortest videos I've ever made on this channel. Probably will be ever. And it's regarding the cap rule, the 25 cap rule that is enforced in place in Wales. Now, across social media, at the local pubs and online, once again, we are seeing controversy surrounding the 25 cap rule. Everybody in Welsh Rugby is talking about it, especially in the build-up to this Six Nations in particular. Why so? Well, obviously regarding player eligibility for Wales. There's a couple of people who are leaving Welsh Rugby. Thomas Williams just announced he's going to be signing for Gloucester for Cardiff, but he's okay because he has more than 25 caps. George North is off to France, and several other players are exiting, and there is sort of an exodus of Welsh players heading off outside of the regions. Some are going to England, some are obviously already in New Zealand, Japan, France, etc. And there's possibility of more to come. Several players have already been approached. Rio Dyer, Mason Grady, Rhys Carey, Tane Basham, Johnny Williams, Leon Brown are the ones that we know of thus far, but I'm sure there are going to be plenty more. Now, those names that I just mentioned, if they left Wales currently, they would no longer be eligible to play for Wales because they have less than 25 caps. But Ryan, what about Callum Sheedy, Tommy Raphael, David Jenkins, Chris Chizunza? Well, before I get into that, Callum Sheedy is no longer eligible for this Six Nations. He's been ruled out with a knee injury, unfortunately. There's a chance that he can make it mid-tournament, but he might not get selected in next week's announcement because of that injury. So those players are technically eligible because they never played professionally for Welsh Rugby region. They are still contracted with the clubs outside of Wales. It's complicated. That is very loud. There's like a giant heater thing back there, so I hope you can still hear me. In fact, let me do this. That'll probably make life so much easier. So, I know what you're thinking. So if a Welsh rugby player, I have written this down because this is quite complex actually, right? So if a Welsh player moves to England for university before ever playing for a Welsh region and gets involved in an academy side or a premiership team, they are still eligible for Wales. Yes, because they never had a professional contract in Wales, and that is why Tommy Raphael, Dav Jenkins, Callum Sheedy, and Chris Chizunza are all eligible to play for Wales. Now they would have to go back to their clubs during the the breaks in between the games in the Six Nations, but they're still eligible, even though they don't have 25 caps. And that is why Fawr Waboso is a hotly contested individual right now, because technically he would still be eligible to play for Wales outside of the Six Nations because he doesn't have 25 caps. And the reason being is he just signed a long-term contract with Exeter Chiefs, and he has never played professional rugby in Wales. So he would join the likes of Dav Jenkins, Chris Chizunza, Tommy Raphael, etc. So the big question is, why did he turn down not playing for Wales? Well, I would imagine there's a few things that he's thought about in this instance. So, for example, there's uncertainty of him not getting a good contract, right? money at the end of the day. Plus, he is studying medicine at Exeter University. So he doesn't want to disrupt that by having to move to a different region, to a different club during his studies. Makes sense. And as a young individual, you probably want to get as much money as you can whilst you can, because let's be honest, we don't know the longevity of a rugby playing career these days in particular. What about Joe Hawkins? Is that why he isn't eligible anymore? Well, Joe Hawkins, ladies and gentlemen, isn't eligible, right, because he played for the Ospreys first. And I know what you're thinking. If he had never played for the Ospreys and already went to England to start his career, just like the other players, would he be eligible for Wales? Yes, he would. But the way that the cap rule works, it's a little bit backwards. It's a little bit backwards. If you start your playing career in Wales at a professional region, like he did for the Ospreys, and then he gets a contract in England, but he hasn't reached the 25 caps, it's not possible. Now, if he was lowballed, if his contract offer that he received potentially was lowballed from one of the regions and Wales couldn't offer him a good contract or whatever, then he would still be eligible. But the Ospreys never offered him a contract, so he had no choice. He was 20 years old, right? He was 20 years old. The budgets were being cut. He didn't know if he was going to get a good contract or not, and he just saw money. He saw the pay signs, the cash coming in, and he said, yeah, why not? I'm young. I'll put my Welsh playing career on hold, and I feel like a lot of individuals will probably do the same, unfortunately. So, as it stands, this is probably not going to be the last of these cases, with a further reduction in the Welsh budget moving forward, playing budget that is, at the URC regions, Scarlets, Ospreys, Dragons, Cardiff. So here's what I propose. As a Trip Over the Top of Rugby podcast, there's two things that need to happen. Number one, remove it altogether, but possibly jeopardize the regions with a mass exodus in Welsh rugby players. Or number two, my personal favorite is to drop it to 5 caps. Why 5 caps? Well, I don't think it's that difficult to get 5 caps for your country in a year if you are that good. Think about it. 6 nations, there's 5 games that you play. Then you have the summer internationals, and then you have the autumn internationals. Summer internationals, there's 3 or 4 caps right there. And then the autumn internationals, depending on how many games, 3 or 4 caps again. So you could accrue 10 plus caps in a year, which gives you some incentive to want to stay into Wales, right? And then that way, once you've accrued those 5 caps, you can then move on and go elsewhere if you please. That makes it so much easier, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of people want to see the cap rule gone completely. But we also have to think long-term about the regions. If the regions are underperforming, the Welsh team is going to underperform. It's that simple. If you're not getting talent to stay in Wales, you're not going to be getting players to play for Wales, right? In other news, the Welsh list for the number 10 jersey for Warren Gatland has just got a little bit shorter, like I said, with Callum Sheedy picking up that knee injury, which could see him miss the tournament. Jared Evans, however, remains in contention, although he wasn't quite sure. There was some immediate confusion surrounding his eligibility, but I think due to being offered a low-ball contract by Cardiff, there's a possibility he's still eligible. But with that being said, will Warren Gatland want to select players outside of the country in those key positions? Key position, number 10, for example, right? Because as it stands, Sam Costello, Johan Lloyd, maybe are the front runners. Okay. Is it too early to call up Dan Edwards? What about Will Reid? I guess we'll find out. As always, like, subscribe for more. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you.